Right there. Awesome. Oh, wait. Is it going live? It's not going live on my Instagram, so I don't know what's. Oh, here it goes. It's got a little delay. So there we go. I'm going to have to. I just put the speaker thing off, so maybe I'll check my Instagram on my phone or something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live stream. The Bow Wow Bill. I should call it the Bow Wow Bill Show or something, man. I got a bunch of these now. I don't know. I just call it Talk Dog. But I have Andrew Fraser. Is how you say last name, Andrew?
Fraser.
Fraser. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for joining me, man. It's been a little bit locking you down here. You're a busy man, traveling all
Sometimes,
around.
sometimes a little busier than I'd like to be, but it's all in good faith, all in good fun.
Yeah, and learning and growing and, at the end of the day, helping dogs, helping dog owners. And so I'm going to share this on my personal page. And while I do that, do you want to give people a quick introduction on who you are, where you're located, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are located in Rockville, Maryland, just about 25 minutes outside of DC. I have a company there called DogiZone, and I've had the business for about 18 years now. And just to kind of keep it high level for right now, basically we started off as a dog training company, and then in the past 8 years have gone from being strictly a dog training company to a dog training and pet resort. So it's myself, and we have about 75 team members that work with us. Usually about 50 come into work on a daily basis. And that's kind of where we are.
That's pretty impressive, dude. And I heard from you from George
Yes.
Cockrell, of course. He's the OG. George has been working with dogs longer than I've been alive.
Yeah,
So,
George and I go way back. We when I was in high school, I used to spend some time with him during the summer, just driving around to people's houses when he had his own business before I really got into training professionally and learned a
awesome.
lot from him. So he's a great person for us to have on our team, no doubt about it.
So 18 years, man. So that's pretty impressive as well. And I want to start back before that. You were saying that you were working with George. Did you always have a passion for dogs, Andrew, or?
Yeah, so growing up, we didn't have a dog in the house until my grandparents were aging, and they, basically needed to go into a retirement community where they couldn't take their dog. So we ended up getting their 14, 15-year-old Samoyed Sheltie mix.
Interesting.
And he was a grouchy old dog, but, of course, fall in love with him. And so losing him was tough because I had been around him as a kid growing up, and started nagging my parents. And they eventually said, you know what, if you want to get a dog, you can get one, but you've got to pay for it. And I don't know about you as a dog trainer, but now when I hear people say that, I go, oh no, I kind of know how this story ends. Because a lot of the times the kid doesn't end up taking care of the dog like planned. But basically I adopted a dog from the shelter, and he was a really challenging dog. He would run away, and I ended up getting involved with Invisible Fence because I needed some way to contain him, and training wasn't necessarily front of mind at that point. So I basically got this dog and got an Invisible Fence, and that's how I met George. Was that the owner of Invisible Fence said, hey Andrew, why don't you come and answer phones for me on the weekend? And I said, sure. Like I can get behind that, put a little money in my pocket to pay my parents back for this fence. And that's how it was that I had gotten connected with George and kind of realized like, hey, there's actually a profession in the dog training world, which, 18 years ago was quite different.
How old were you then?
I was about 14.
Okay.
14, 15 years old. And, it was basically during the summertime, I would go and work at Invisible Fence, or I would shadow George, and did that for a couple of summers. But school was never my thing. So one of the things that I did while I was in high school was I got into a work program where I could leave school halfway through the day and go and work. And I spent some of that time working for Invisible Fence, and I spent some of that time also working for a veterinary clinic as a tech assistant. So those are both great opportunities for me to kind of get my hands wet and dirty in the dog world. And I learned pretty quickly that the veterinary field wasn't what I wanted to do, and that the idea of dog training seemed like a much more enjoyable and less depressing place to work. So.
Yeah, euthanasia is a huge factor that I didn't consider before I volunteered at a vet, and it just broke my heart to see how many dogs were being put down. They deal with euthanasia. I mean, thank God for them, because they do a job that is hard, but it's I get it. I was thinking about, oh, look who's here.
There he is.
What's up, George? Love you, buddy. People don't realize, I mean, the draw on the emotional factor that veterinarians have, that it's just, it's one of the highest suicide rates. They're underappreciated, in my opinion. And so go thank a veterinarian today. Everybody, that's your homework.
No kidding.
Just thank them and thank God for them too. I mean, I have right now my old school guy, and he's like 85 years old, and he works every single day, a veterinarian that I have. And like, he called me at like 8 p.m. on Sunday. One of my dogs had a urinary tract infection. I caught a little sample of it, brought it into him. And do you know what he does? Woof. This is what it is. And he gave me, but he said, this is what it is. And sent me, or got me some antibiotics and the regimen of antibiotics, and then called me at 8 p.m. Sunday night and was like, yeah, man, we just got the lab results back, or I had to call you and tell you that it is what I told you it was. And I'm like, man, stop growing old. I was like, you're amazing, so veterinarians are underappreciated. And I had in high school, I did auto body, and I learned that I had the same thing. My grandparents gave me their dog, a Schnauzer named Squeaky, when I said I wanted to work with dogs. And I often tell people, as a professional, when they say, just like you were saying about when the kid wants a dog, I tell the parents, hey, look, make sure the kid gets a dog that you guys actually want.
Right.
Because it's going to end up being your dog. Because
100%.
Yeah, they go off to college. I mean, life is busy. The thrill wears off pretty soon for kids, right? And so make sure if you're a parent with kids and want to get a dog for your kids, that you get a dog that you like and are part of the research process, because eventually that dog will grow to be your dog, especially when they go away to college. So is that the dog that was in the bio here?
Yeah, I think so. His name was Tanner.
Tanner, what kind of dog?
So he was, one of the sad parts of his ending was I had gotten a DNA test kit to try to figure out what he was a mix of. And apparently the kit that I ordered was the wrong one. And so I had gotten the DNA swab done and sent it away, and he had passed away before I got the results back. And then the results came back inconclusive because it wasn't apparently the right kit. So I never found out really what he was, but I used to think that he was like a blackmouth cur mix of some sort. Okay. Definitely had that same facial structure and coloring. So I would say blackmouth cur or some type of short-coated mixed breed.
Okay. And so then you're back in high school, you're going to the vet, you're going to the Invisible Fence work program. What gave you the idea? And you started training dogs, right?
Yeah, so basically during high school, most of what I was doing was administrative work. When I was working for Invisible Fence, I was doing a lot of answering phones and filing and stuffing mailers and, kind of entry level type of work. I was much more hands-on in the veterinary clinic, from the get-go. But, there were benefits to both of those things. And I guess, it was really I was at a point in high school where I was really struggling to just make it through my classes. And one of my teachers said, Andrew, like, if you would just apply yourself, you could get out of here a year early and not have to do your senior year. And I was like, hold on a second. I can get out of high school a year early. I don't have to continue to suffer through this. And like my grades, Bill, when I was in school were a lot of D's, a few failed classes, and every once in a while I would get like a B. So I had like a 1.4 average GPA or something like that. But I had this teacher who just kind of like gave me the push, and she was like, go to night school, make up your classes that you failed, and take an extra class during the summer, and you can be out of here a year early. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I just like buckled down one semester, did really good, applied myself. I was just under a 4.0 that one semester. I proved to myself that I could do it too. And I was like, you know what? Like, I just need to get out of here. Like, this isn't the right environment for me. I'd been in like special ed basically most of my school years because I couldn't sit still in class. I'm just super ADHD all over the place and would drive my teachers nuts. So when I found out I could get out, I just kind of said, you know what? I ought to give this dog training thing a try, and checked out National Canine like basically a month or two after I graduated. And I think I was signed up like within 6 months of graduating high school to go out to National Canine.
Okay.
And I was definitely one of the youngest students there. I think I was 17 at the time, and I think the next youngest person was like in their 30s when I went. So it was an interesting experience.
And that's in Ohio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I'll share the link for you guys. I've been talking to a number of people that are from National Canine here, and I've heard great things about it since 1973. It's been up and running here. I'll actually show people. I can share the screen here. So here's National Canine, and yeah, they got a school for dog trainers there, right here. They also do boarding and everything. And so I'll send a link or set up a link in the comments down below. You guys check them out. And so what was your experience like there?
Yeah, I mean, I went through their 6-week program, and I had a great time. I think that it was a very immersive experience, which is, kind of what you need when you are going to go into a profession like this. It's like a live, breathe, and sleep it kind of thing. And that's very much so the way that it was there, at least when I went. And so, I also had quite a few people that were older, some people who were retired, moving on to a second career. So it was a really like great group of people like to be surrounded by, because everybody was kind of focused on learning a new career and growing. And, that definitely was the right environment for me. I mean, I could have been there and it, was a bunch of people my age that weren't serious, and, we could have just been like drinking beers every night, but that's not the type of experience that it was. It was, I felt like I had a lot of mentors there, even though they weren't even experienced dog trainers. They're just people that wanted to, see me succeed, because I was kind of the young guy there.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of people, I think out of our class of 16, I think there's only one or two that are still training dogs today, which is kind of a bummer to see, but it just kind of goes to show like how much time and commitment it really does take to be successful in the industry. And not a lot of people are willing to put that in.
Yeah, well, and also shows Oh, say that. Sorry, Andrew. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I just think that people are, quick to jump on and move on to the next thing versus just staying focused and just keep sharpening the axe and just getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And over time, it has a pretty significant impact.
Are you on a laptop? Can you put your screen down just a little bit like this? Perfect. Oh, perfect, dude. We're like perfect. There we go. Well, and so a couple things here, man. Like I know that those people saw potential in you because your teachers did, obviously. That one teacher, right? And I'll remember my teachers, and it's unfortunate, but I only have a few of them. I went to every single Boise high school. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and I was kind of a rambunctious, rebellious kid, and my parents just got divorced, and so that played into kind of my being rebellious at that time. And I remember I went to a Catholic school, Bishop Kelly, and I remember Father John, and I went to an alternative high school, and I'll always remember Wes Stoddard. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook now. And it's crazy to see how old my teachers are now. I'm 47, so it's like like they're all retired and they're all just old and gray. And but I'll always remember these teachers because they saw the potential in me, and they told me, and they held me to a higher regard as far as not allowing me to be a guy that just kind of just gave up. They wouldn't allow me to I don't know, just to goof off or fart around or any of that stuff, man. They were like, Bill, come on, you know better than this. And I did. And I needed somebody to tell me that as an adolescent. And I'm so thankful they did. And so that's the first thing I wanted to mention is like, if you're in the position, and a lot of us as we get older, it helps to be a hoodlum. Yeah, George. I was too, man. Like I just didn't care. And I think I got bored with school. I'm like, come on. Like I knew this stuff. My math teacher, Mrs. Peterson, she was like, Bill, why don't you come up and teach the class? And I was like, you got it.
Yep.
And I went up there and I remember at my teacher's conference with my parents came home and was like, yeah, your teacher said that you taught the class and that you actually showed these students. Like I'm walking and I'm like, who doesn't get this? I need to know who doesn't. Like I did it a totally different way than she did. And but I was a hoodlum, and I liked being funny, and I liked making people laugh. I was a class clown. But it's something that if you do see potential, and as we grow older as well, and one of the biggest reasons why I do these live streams is for younger trainers that are either interested or are in the business now. And you did something unique where you started in a school. I didn't. I just started doing my own thing, working with dogs because I worked with them in my family, and I wish I did. I went the route you did, Andrew. Right? It's a lot of this stuff is intuitive, and you don't just learn how to work with dogs, and you also, did they teach you like business aspects, or when you went to National Canine, or was it more hands-on?
They have a small like business component to it, but that's definitely not where the focus was. And I think that that's also part of the reason why out of the 16 people that were in my class, there's only maybe 2 of us still in business. Mm. I think that there's sometimes people put too much emphasis on the dog training piece and not enough on the business, and they become a great dog trainer, but then they suffer on the business side, and that's problematic. Amen. Like I think we have a responsibility to be educated in both sides of things if we're going to be professionals and run a company. And I think that sometimes like a dog training school, because it's a dog training school, doesn't necessarily lean into the business education quite as much as maybe they should, so that people, once they leave with that knowledge of how to train dogs, they can actually implement it into a business that's going to be successful.
Well, And what?
And long lasting, something that's going to be able to have some stay to it.
I was going to say, and not so much overwhelm or burnout that happens, because that's, is if you wear every hat, that's a matter of time before you're just going to burn out. You're burning the candle at both ends,
Totally.
and there's people like, that's what I actually started getting very frustrated when I first started business. I was like, I went from waiting tables, and I was like, okay, a good day of waiting tables is $120. How do I make $120 a day? That's the only thing I thought about, right? And so then I was like, I'm going to walk dogs, and I'm going to get 6 dogs and charge $20, and that's $120, right? And I got the 6 dogs, and I was walking them, and then I went to go to my friends who I was walking their dogs, and I'm like, okay, pay me. And they went, they were like, next week. I was chasing them for my payment, and they didn't see the value, and they were taking advantage of me. And so I was like, I gotta find a business coach. Did you experience the same? Like, what happened when you got out of school and started actually started the career, the boots on the ground? What did that look like?
Yeah, so basically I came out of dog training school, and I remember thinking that I knew everything there was.
You're like, okay, cool.
I was like, I can train any dog for anything. Like, I got this. I was so wrong. Oh my gosh. So wrong. So I came out of dog training school and then learned how much I didn't know, and started really focusing on, okay, who can I go learn from? And so, I went out, and there was no limitations at the time before they became sit, mean, sit. But I went through their school. And
Fred? You went to Fred? Okay.
Yep. And, I continued to just like work with other trainers as I got the opportunity, Martin and, Bart and whoever was around that I could learn from. I was always like a sponge to that. But I kind of got to a certain point where like learning more about dogs wasn't actually like helping my business, because I didn't have any more bandwidth. So the pain started to not be that I didn't know what to do training dogs. It was, I don't know how to manage my time now because I don't have any. So I got to a point where I was like, basically like, I was very successful in bringing in clients and staying busy, but we weren't really making money, and things got really painful for a while. And I remember being at a point where I was like, damn, like I can't even pay the guy that I have working for me. This doesn't make sense. Like I need to focus on the business. Like this makes no sense for me to work this hard and not to be making good money at the same time. Like it's not about the money, but we are needing to make money with what it is that we're doing here. So
Absolutely.
That's when I started going to focus on like my business learning. And I started off with just like a local small business development office that's, basically a part of the SBA, and went through like a short 6-week course where I went and met with somebody every Friday it was a group of us for about, 6 or 8 weeks. It's called the CEO Accelerator Program. And like the guy that ran it was awesome. And like I had never heard of him before, but I was just like, yeah, I'm going to give this guy a chance to teach me something. And I learned a lot from him. What I learned, and I guess just became more clarified, was that I have a lot to learn about business. And I think that was the catalyst to where I started really focusing on hiring business coaches and joining coaching and training organizations to really further my knowledge on how to run a company and how to grow a company.
Dude, I found it. This is actually the one that is in Maryland too. So they have one that's, and they have a few of these. I just Googled the CEO Accelerator here.
Yep.
And
Russell Teeter's still teaching it. Boom. Is
that
awesome.
The guy? Yeah,
yep.
Russell Teeter right here.
Yep.
Man, cool. I might have to give them a call and just see if there's anything out here. I'm on the West Coast, right? And so, because that's kind of where I'm at too, man. It's like I want to do it right. I had a bunch of employees, and I had two more payrolls left, and that was it. And I couldn't see this thing being viable, and I didn't want to go into debt. And it was, I mean, quite a few years ago now. But now I'm at, as we were speaking about before, now I'm at that point where I'm ready to grow again. And I don't want to be in the same situation that I was. What were your main takeaways from the beginning process of walking away from this CEO Accelerator program, Andrew?
I think that what I realized was that I needed to become much more intentional about my company. I think that I had just basically rode the wave, of like what was going on, and just kind of lived in the moment with the business. And I wasn't thinking ahead and really being intentional about where I wanted the company to be from a revenue perspective, from a profit perspective. Like, what did I want it to look like in 3 years, 5 years, 25 years? And it really opened my eyes up to that. The other thing that I would say is that it really helped me learn how to set goals. Like, I learned about SMART goals for the first time going through, the CEO Accelerator program. And, I've learned about them now from a couple of people, and I'm guessing you may or may not be familiar with SMART goals. Bill, are you familiar with like the acronym for that?
No, I'm not. I might be if you say it, but we'll
it's not easy to remember. It took me a long time to actually remember it, but basically it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. And one of the other variations on it is, instead of specific, is it's shared, meaning that you're sharing that goal with other people. And it's a great framework, but I had never heard of it before or seen it before. And now I feel like it comes up all the time, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And we try to incorporate that into everything that we do, whether it's a new project or just wanting to improve something within a department. We aim to use that as much as we can. So
specific, and that's, I'm like this idea guy. I have a lot of great ideas. I have a lot of, that's how my mind works. But it's like the getting from A to B, like all the steps in between, right? That's where I fail. And that's where a lot of times where I don't even begin, right? And so there's the measurable, right? And making sure that this is attainable and relevant. Sometimes I'm out there, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I got an idea. Oh, wait a second, and then and time bound deadlines, right? Deadlines, and people don't realize that, the deadline, like, imagine this is a line. Once it crosses this line, it's dead.
Yep.
Right. And so we have to adhere to that as well. And I'm good at adhering, like people that I've hired to deadlines, right? Like my attorneys or my tax people or any of my accountants and stuff like that.
Yep.
But not so good, with setting them up for myself. So that's something that I definitely can learn from, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's like levels to goal setting, and like I didn't used to set personal goals. Like, I would set a lot of business goals, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting pretty good at this. And then I'm like, but I'm not setting personal goals. And so while I'm maybe making progress in one area of my life, I'm kind of neglecting and ignoring another part of my life. So like trying to make SMART goals for myself now is one of the habits that I'm working on creating, because it's a lot of the time we just let certain things in our life happen by chance, whether that be weight or whatever the case may be, goals that you have for your fitness, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's another one, right? Is it's like I remember Zig Ziglar said that it's like a tire or a wheel, and that anytime that any part of your life is lacking, then we have a flat tire, right? And so that's it. Like a lot of people put their focus in money or true wealth as well, right? It's not just having a lot of money, right?
Yep.
It's having good health, having a solid relationship. For me, it's having a spiritual aspect of my life that I go to church and love God, and then having the money as well, and then the time to enjoy that money with your relationship, with your health, and so it all kind of intertwines together.
Yep.
And so setting up the goals for your own health is important as well. You got kids and stuff?
Yeah, so I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I got a boy and a girl. So things are interesting in our house right now.
A
I
little
can now
different.
really appreciate being a pet dog owner, like playing that role almost.
Yeah, well, and that's
feeding the dogs and so forth.
well, I never ever, shame anybody. Like it's not. I don't like doing that, and I hear a lot of trainers, shaming their clients, shaming people for not doing the work, and I'm like, dude, they got 6 kids. Like I can't imagine what their life is like, and that's what it kind of reminds me of. And so working on your business, not just in your business.
Yep.
Right. And so you start to structure it differently. What do you do? What are some of the steps that you've made to, especially back then when you start learning this stuff? What are some of the ways that you've changed it and gained back your time? And
yeah, so I started off by getting core values established within our company. I think that core values are a critical piece to the equation of a company that I didn't. If I had started off with core values, I would have saved myself a lot of time and pain. Like if I had built that before I built my company. But I started off by creating a set of core values for my company, creating a core purpose for my company, and also developing a 3-year vision for my company, where I got really explicitly clear about where it is that we wanted to go and where did we want to be 3 years from that point. And that's something that we've continued to, update every 3 years. We're on our 3rd one now. And, that kind of has become our roadmap. It gives us a framework that we can always refer back to and that we can always go back for making decisions. I find in running a company, we're always faced with a ton of decisions. And there's decisions around how we handle things with a dog, how we handle things with a client, how we handle things with a team member. And when we have a really good set of core values and a really clear vision of where we want to see the company in 3 years, it makes having all of those conversations much easier and those decisions much easier because we are very clear on who we are as a company, what we stand for, and where we want to go. And so that's been a very large part of, how we have really started to grow as a company is getting that core foundation really clear. And, the more time consuming part of that is, getting the people that are on, the team to buy into that or not, because not everybody's going to. And so, when you implement these types of things, there's, certainly some pain initially that comes along with it, but it does allow for a stronger platform for growth in the future. So I like to say, no pain, no gain. But it does make it much easier as you're going through the trials and tribulations, if you will.
Well, and this is some examples of some core values: accountability, boldness, collaboration, continuous improvement, curiosity. Just some that you can. Are there any that stand out here that you guys have adopted?
Yeah. So, I mean, quite frankly, I think one of the best ways to adopt core values is to look at companies that you really respect and that you really value and that you like how they do business, and look at their core values. And that's what we did. So we have core values around integrity. Our integrity core value is have integrity at all times. It's doing what's right even when no one is watching. So I think that's a critical one. Safety is one for us. I don't know if that one's on there. I don't see it. But safety first, like think twice, act once. That's our first core value. Let's see here. We have one that's positive team and family spirit. I think that goes to teamwork.
Right here, yep.
Yep.
Transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Trust, vulnerability, all that stuff is, I mean, the safety one, because people don't realize, and when I first got my first L&I bill, and I was talking about this with Adrian Forsyth, like there's some trainers out there that are going to do apprenticeships with other trainers, and well, it's a 1099 versus W2, right? And it's like you got to know that most of these guys that you're doing, because you're expecting them to adhere to your type of philosophy, that's going to be a W2, right? And you in the 1099 is actually going to get you in trouble. But we also are working with sometimes dangerous predators, right? And we can't negate that and try to save a few dollars. And there has to be protocols and processes, not just with handling aggressive dogs, but with dogs in general. And not only that, but dogs flee, right? And that was one of my it still is, dog taken off, right? And so there's so many aspects of this safety protocol that must be considered. And that's your job as the person, the CEO of this company, that you're bringing in people. And we have entrepreneurs, but then we also have the intrapreneurs, right? And the entrepreneurs, I wish I was an entrepreneur sometimes, where I can just go and clock out and say, see you later.
Steve Jobs was a good entrepreneur. I think he did pretty well.
Yeah. But it's something that it needs to be considered. And then once you do, and like you said, it's a growing pain, because you're going to have to set up this framework. But once that framework is set up, it's the frame that you're growing within, and the core values make sense that to be part of that framework, and now the other aspect of this is like corporate culture and also employee culture, right? And you have 75. Holy smokes, man. So you have obviously an office manager or somebody that manages. How many managers do you have for that?
Yeah, so our leadership team is a team of 6 plus me. So we have a sales manager. They manage our calls. He manages our call center, basically, and everything around, sales and some customer service. We have a pet experience manager. We have an assistant general manager. We also have a retail store manager, and then we have an administrative manager. So with there being so many different departments in our company and our business, I wouldn't say as a simple business. At this point, it's become a bit complex over time. We definitely need that. And we also have pretty long hours where we need to have that many managers to have coverage. So we're open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, from like 6 to 8 o'clock, and then weekends from 8 until 6. So we had a lot of hours that were available for people to come in and shop with us or pick up and drop off their dogs, have lessons, etc.
Well, what a great resource for the community. What a great, I wish that we had that here. I'm sure we do in some aspect, but, I just haven't I got for myself, I have 7 dogs. And that's the other aspect of this. How many dogs do you have now yourself personally?
I am very happy with 2. I had 8 at one point, and 6 of them were Malinois, and I have 2. I have a Fox Red British Field Lab, just piece of cake, easy dog, and I've got a little pit bull beagle mutt thing that she's a piece of cake too, and I'm very content with that. And that was a little intentional. I knew I had kids in my future, and I was like, I want to make this easier on myself. So.
Well, if anybody can borrow my scars, man, like I pay to go to work. That's what I tell people. Like I pay to go to work with this many dogs. I'll never have this many dogs. Luckily, they're little, right? But I'll never have more than 2 dogs in the future here.
I think for me, it was just that I felt like I was a caretaker more so than I felt like I had a relationship with my dogs individually, and that they were almost like more bonded with each other. And so I've really enjoyed it, like, because I actually didn't even realize kind of the situation that I was in until I got down to 2, and then I was like, this is awesome, like I really like this. So I get nervous when I hear like my non-professional clients, pet dog owners, say, oh, I think we're going to get the 3rd or 4th dog. I'm like, ooh, careful with that decision.
Yeah, 3 is max, right? But 2 is perfect, I think. They can engage with each other. You usually have 2 laps that they can sit or come get pets from.
Totally.
But lesson learned, man. And that's something, like, I think as business owners, as dog owners, as parents, one of the most powerful statements that we can make is, I was wrong. Right. Yep. and to make changes, but also this is a decade decision with these dogs. They're going to be around for a while, so you have to kind of bite the bullet for a bit. And no new dogs, even though I every once in a while, like I love doing the scent detection and all that stuff, so it's hard to just adhere to these dogs. But you're right, Andrew, like every new dog that you get is taken away from the dogs that you have.
Yeah.
And so now, do you have a vet or anything on site, or?
We don't right now. It's something that I probably get that question once a month from somebody, because we have so many other offerings there that's like kind of the one thing that we don't have at this point. Our second location that we're working towards developing, I got permitted to have a vet clinic. So whether we move forwards with it or not, I don't know. I think kind of like thinking back to the earlier part of our conversation, the veterinarian side of the business and the industry is a tough place, and finding them is extremely challenging. And I'm not sure if I want to really get into that, but who knows? There could be somebody that comes along that says, hey, I want to plot my practice here, and maybe I would consider it, but not at this point.
Well, let me show you. I didn't even pull this up, but so you guys have dog boarding, doggy daycare, dog grooming, training, of course, canine fitness. Huh, I like that. So you have like a little gym that the dogs come into? What is that? What's the canine fitness?
Yeah, so myself and 2 of our other team members back in 2019 went through the Certified Canine Fitness Trainer program at University of Tennessee. And basically it's a program that's around fitness for dogs. So it's not around rehabilitation per se. It would be for, if the dog has already been rehabilitated and, we're just trying to get that dog back to their normal strength, or it could be an older dog that needs more flexibility, weight loss programs, any of those types of things. So the three of us got certified, and so we don't do a lot of fitness right now. We're actually planning to start to put a little bit more time into it. COVID kind of took our focus away from it for a little while, but definitely something that we've started to see more interest in from our clients. People are wanting their dogs to live longer, healthier lives, and there's no better way to do that than to keep them super fit, whether that's through nutrition or exercise. Both are critically, important. Big picture.
Well, one of the aspects of it is like the number one health issue in dogs is the same as the number one health issue in humans, and that's obesity.
Mm-hmm.
There's our dog training. Fantastic. Look at those kennels too, man. What kennels do you guys have there?
We use Snyder kennels.
Snyder.
So
okay.
they're I think they have two factories, a Midwest and then the West Coast plant. But yeah, we've been pretty happy with them. We've got somewhere around 125 enclosures from them, and yeah, they're nice. They're good looking enclosures. Dogs are safe in them. We did all glass on our runs, which I like and don't like at the same time, just from the standpoint of the glass is like trying to keep that clean at all times. If you're like me, you kind of get anal. If you see like streaks on the glass, you're like, somebody needs to clean this again. And when you got dog noses bumping against the glass all day long, it
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not gonna happen here. I'm gonna see what play this here. Just that's pretty cool, man. Oh, here we go. You got a nice yard out there. Let's see if I can pop.
Yeah, that's actually covered now. We got a big roof for that, so we can train in the rain.
Very cool, man. Nice and clear. There's Jessica.
You saw her.
Yeah,
there's
George
right there.
There's you.
Before I lost my hair.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna say anything, but I got a solar spot back here too. I tell my wife it's my solar panel for a love making machine.
I love it.
Check it out. We got the group classes. Dude, that's so nice, man. A little scent detection here, some boxes. Working dogs around each other. And I see that that Jess has e-collar, the educator, on her. How do you do e-collar classes? I don't see any e-collars on the dogs. What are your opinions on that? And is it
I'm a big fan of e-collars. I don't know. I guess I'll just kind of make it simple here. Like, my belief is that I think every dog needs to be able to respond to their commands on and off leash. And there's just no better way to get the off leash results. And so we give our clients the option, and we let them make the decision that feels right for them. And I'd say 50% of the time they choose a collar, and 50% of the time they may opt for a more kind of traditional approach. And we'll work with them with leash and collar treats. But a lot of the time, after a little doing it the hard way, people realize, probably should just consider that collars. I'd say half of the people that don't do it up front end up choosing it down the road. So,
yeah. Well, and I like that you give them options, man. And it's like, look, it's your dog. That's what I tell them. I was like, there's many paths to get to where we need to go. It's just that some of these paths might be a little bit more bumpier than the others, or take a little bit like do the serpentine path, where we're going back and forth. So it's going to take us a little bit longer to maybe get to that destination. But you, as the dog owner, are the one who decides this. And here's our options. What would you like? Yep. Oh, you do home visits as well?
So we do more pickup and drop off.
Okay.
We don't do as many at home training sessions anymore. I mean, if somebody really needs it, we'll make it happen for them, of course. But we tend to just try to stay off the road from a training perspective, because when we're busy, it's a lot of time getting eaten up by driving around. So
back at square one, like that's like just even today before you and I are live, I spent a couple hours on the road picking up a dog, man.
yeah.
And I don't think people realize that, and that's one of the reasons why I want to focus on getting things out here to come to me, making a spot that becomes the destination for people to go to get that training. So what do you think are drawbacks of in-home training for maybe our listeners that are professional trainers that versus having a facility, and vice versa? What are there's got to be a huge overhead with payroll and stuff like that. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know kind of marketing, finds its way into everything. So, for the guy who has the facility, it's easy to say, well, doing it at the facility is better. But there's a lot of value in on the in-home side of things too. It just really kind of depends on the type of business that you want to build and create. But what we've found is that having a facility really allows us to serve more dogs, to serve more people, and while we might not necessarily be working in the same environment that the dog lives in, it shows us and the client a new side of the dog by putting them into a brand new environment. We really kind of see what the dog is truly made of, because it's in a new place that it generally has never been before. And I think that there's a lot of value in that. So I think that the average person can save money by going to a facility, and it's just a little bit more time for them on the driving side of things, but it's a good place to start. Like, you don't necessarily have to pay more to have somebody come to your house, and you can see where you're at and what you're able to do there, because you might be surprised. Like, my argument is that if your dog does well here, where we have anywhere from 100 to 150 dogs barking, making noise, smells and etc., it's like, you should be able to do this at home. And if you're not, it's probably you, not the dog. So we got to work on you being consistent, or we got to work on you having the discipline of doing what needs to be done. So I don't, I prefer the facility just because like if we can do 8 lessons in a day versus 6, that's a significant increase in revenue for us. So that's the direction that we choose to go in. But I don't think that, for the dog, in most cases, that it has to be one way or the other. Occasionally I'll see a dog that will come through the doors that's just a complete basket case that is very difficult to work with in the facility. But I mean, even with all the COVID puppies, I haven't seen anything too dramatic here recently.
Well, and it's also, how many times do you think it's the person versus the dog?
100. 100%. Yeah. I mean, whether it, and so often it's, not by design, it's by default, right? Like, the dog's just a product of the environment that it's in.
Yeah. The comfort zone, right? Just like the doggy zone, their house is the comfort zone, right? And so, there is value taking them out of that comfort zone, seeing them because it's almost like wiping that slate clean, because they don't have the established routine, the rituals. That's what I called, like the knocking at the door, stuff that, look at my dogs, or hopefully they don't go off as I knock on the desk here. But that's what happens, man, is that they develop these small rituals that are reinforced inadvertently by the people, right? And so it's cool to take them out into kind of a clean, like sterile environment that you can learn, and also When another dog sees another dog being held to the same account that they are, I think that it helps them too. It's like, oh, okay, good. It's not just me, right? It's
Yep.
not just being singled out. Have you know Nelson Hodges?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever had him out to your facility there?
I have not, but I've heard a lot of great things about his programs, and I should look at seeing if we can get him to do one of our workshops this year or
Yeah,
in the
I
coming year.
highly recommend him because it especially not just for your clients, like, but especially for your staff, because people that actually work with dogs, and it just kind of changes the perspective of how to work with them, and I think that it deepens the understanding of the dynamic, but also the perspective of the dog becoming the dog by proxy. We teach our owners to be the new sheriff in town. Amen, George. Well, once they see that it's possible, and once they see that their dog is, like, dude, you're butthead, man. You don't do this stuff at home. I know what you're capable of. And it's like, look, if you can do it here, then you can definitely do it at home. And I like what you were saying, Andrew, is like, well, it's obviously not the dog, because the dog's an angel here, and it gets the horns at home, or the tilted halo at home.
Yep.
George, yep, Nelson is the man. I highly recommend him. I've had him out here at my place a couple times, and every single time I learn from him. But it sounds like you already have a huge program that I just know that would just benefit you guys. Just makes sense to mention him here. So.
Yeah, I definitely will have to reach out to him. I met him at an IACP conference. I guess it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, and had good conversation with him. It's definitely should follow back up with him.
When you bring in a new dog to daycare, do you give them a probationary time? What is that? How do you qualify your dogs? And what are some red flags that are instant kind of, look, we can't have this here?
Yeah, so our evaluation process starts on the phone, and we are focused on being as proactive with our screening as we can in our daycare program. So basically, when we start off on the phone, we are asking, has your dog had aggression towards people or other dogs, like very directly within the first probably 2 minutes of the phone call? We're asking that question. And if we have a dog that has a history of biting, we're probably going to go ahead and just stop at that point. Like, they won't even make it into the facility. But when they do come in, they have a 6-page application that they've filled out prior, and it goes through the dog's past and present behavior. So it's pretty extensive. And, there's basically a handful of things that we have our staff look for as they're going through that application. And when they're going through their checklist, when they're actually evaluating the dog, if there's things on the application, like that the dog, has his hackles up with other dogs frequently, or I'm trying to think, because I haven't looked at the application here in a little while, but it might be that the dog only does well with a certain sex. Like, those are things that will tend to flag, so that when we're actually performing the evaluation, we are looking for those things. And basically, they go through a portion where we want to first off see, like, can we safely contain the dog in the facility? So when they come in, we want to see, like, how do they do being in an enclosure, whether it's one of our cabins or one of our runs. And if we can't safely contain the dog's super stressed out, trying to bite through the beds and things like that, we'll stop the evaluation. We'll call the owner and say, it's not a fit, come pick up your dog.
Okay.
And we're not afraid to do that.
Well, and first off, what's a cabin?
Yeah, so cabin's basically like, it's going to be like a double stacked enclosure. So you've got a bottom level and a top level, and basically there's like four enclosures per cabin bank.
Okay.
They're, just a smaller size. So we have our extra large and our large, which are runs, and then we have a small and medium cabin. So like we have some labs that can go in a cabin. And then, like our small dog cabins are really for like Yorkies and Chihuahuas and your much smaller dogs. So we don't really encourage our clients to choose the largest size run that they want to pay for. Like we know what is best for the dogs when they're in our environment, and that's for them to be in an area that feels safe and secure. And so if they're in a big space, they may not feel that way. So we, kind of size the enclosure based on what the dog's going to do best in.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. People are like, "Ooh, I want a suite. I want my dog to have the suite." And it's like, look, man, that makes them feel vulnerable.
Yep.
I mean, when there's, it's almost like swaddling a baby. I say when they're nice and enclosed, they don't have anything to worry about. I'm protected. I'm good. Then they can zonk out.
Yep.
And that's actually one of the first things I ever ask one of my clients too is, has your dog ever shown aggression towards human or other animals? Right. And then, but I think, as I said, these conversations I learned, so I'm going to maybe elongate my application as well. Because sometimes you just get them in, man, or you hear them say, he just doesn't like, he takes some time to get to know, or he's fine once he gets to know them. That's one of them. Like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, well,
except when I'm like,
he's perfect, right. except, now, what about your employees? Like, how do you bring on a new employee? How do you qualify them? Where are you finding them? This is something that I'm interested in learning for myself. And how do you keep them once you find them, the good ones? Like what are some aspects of retention? How do you keep these guys around?
Yeah, I mean, we could spend an hour and a half on like this alone because it's just like such a huge topic. But I guess one of the big things that I've learned over the years is that like we tend to focus on always finding new clients. Like we want to grow our business by finding people that are going to pay us the money. But we really should be spending an equal amount of time finding team members. So we're always marketing for new clients or advertising, but we should also be doing the same thing for our team members. So we continuously recruit. And anybody who's been in the pet industry for any length of time knows that turnover rate is high in the pet industry just as a whole. And so you've got to be prepared for that. In some of our busiest times, we've actually had a full-time recruiter on staff.
Okay.
Right now, we're not keeping a full-time recruiter on staff, but probably between 2021 and 2022, we were keeping a recruiter on staff because we were just going through so much growth, and on top of that, the turnover was really very high right after COVID. So we're constantly recruiting. We do that through talking to our existing database, like of our clients. I've sent out emails to clients and said, hey, we've got a few positions that are open. If you know somebody who's interested and we hire them, we have a gift for you. And have done a credit for them. And I think that's how we got one of our last managers. She was actually a client and didn't know that she was an animal control officer as well. So she had a lot of experience like working with dogs, and we were able to pick her up, and it was a great find. So to that point, we also use Indeed, and we keep postings up on our website, and we just stay constantly looking at resumes every day, every week. We do a lot of what we call hiring events, which are basically where we invite a group of anywhere from 5. We've had as many as 30, 35 people come, and we do a big group interview. and basically sit down and present some information on the company. Give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, ask them a couple of questions, but it's basically a rapid fire opportunity for us to meet these people, not only for us to interview them, but for them to kind of interview us and make sure we're the company that they want to come and work for, which I think is equally as important. Like, so we'll share the things that we do from a benefits perspective. Benefits are something if you want to go into that, I'm happy to chat more about what we do on that side of
sure,
things.
Absolutely.
So
what do you do because that's part of the retainment, right? And it sounds like speed dating to me. Like you're like, okay, like tell me about you and what do you like,
so it is a little bit like speed dating in the hiring event. Never thought about it that way, but maybe I'll have to come up with a new name for that. But basically after that, we do an initial interview with the people that we choose. So when we do a hiring event, I have managers sitting in there as kind of like a board, and they're taking notes as people are talking. And then at the end, we sit together as a team and we go, who did we like? Who's not a fit right now? And then we reach out to everybody that we thought was a fit, and we do our interviews with them. And then from there, I think the onboarding process is a really important part of retaining people, is them having a good experience, especially in their first 90 days. Like, are they getting the training? Are they getting the support that they need to be successful? And I think once we get through that first 90 days, that's where benefits start to become like more important. Because most of the time people aren't getting access to their benefits until, 30, 60, 90 days after, depending on the thing. But what we do is we do, paid time off for everybody. Do about 4 weeks of paid time off between sick and vacation. We cover 25% of their health insurance. We have a 401k that we do a 4% match on. So those are kind of some of the basic nuts and bolts. But we do, we've done some other things like tuition reimbursement for programs. Like we've sent people to, like I mentioned earlier, the certified canine fitness trainer program, videography programs, all sorts of stuff. And I think that's definitely a draw for people as well. But a big part of us, retaining our team members is by listening to them. And,
this is what George said about the qualifying the dogs, right? About trusting his trainer's gut feelings too, like listening to your employees.
They're on the front lines. I mean, especially, at this point for me, I'm not necessarily interfacing with clients on a daily basis. And I have to, I had to give up trying to know it all and be there for everything. And I learned that I got to leave it in the hands of my team. And so, that's kind of how, when we talk as a leadership team, we talk about is like, we take care of team members first. If we do a great job taking care of the team members and listening to them, helping them, supporting them, that's going to translate into really happy clients, and really happy clients will spend more money. So, we've kind of taken a team first approach, and, clients kind of come second, because without great team members to take care of them, we can't do anything. So.
Are you familiar with the Kaizen method?
Yes. Constant, never-ending improvement.
That's right, and that is part of listening to your staff, because, as you said, they're in the front lines, and that's one of the things that I adopted with my staff is like, look, you guys are empowered to make changes, but I want to know, if we need to move this trash can a little bit closer over here, like talk to me, but like don't be afraid to bring up problems, bring up issues. Things that you can say, that you can see that would bring improvement. I don't care how small it is, right? We're always constantly innovating and constantly growing. And that empowerment, that confidence, just like you said, translates to the customer experience as well. And so that's the other aspect is like, do you have like, how do how do you go about the customer experience? Like, do you have shoppers or people that maybe come in that you can see where the ball's being dropped? What about that aspect?
Yeah, so just to circle back on one of the last things that you said that we just recently did with our leadership team, as I said, I'm giving each one of you a $50 magic pill, which means that if you run into a problem that can be solved for $50 or less, I don't want you to come and ask me for permission. I want you to just take care of it. And then I want you next time that we meet to tell me what you did. And maybe it was good, maybe it was not, but I'm going to give them the opportunity to do that. So that's something that we just started with our leadership team. Going back to, the client quality assurance side of things, I guess I'm lucky in the sense that my business is located in my backyard that I grew up in as a kid. And since I went to 5 schools in 5 years, a lot of people know me. And which is great locally, that I have a lot of people that know me. And so basically I tell our drivers, like, I have eyes on the road every because every single time one of my friends sees one of the DogiZone vans, I get a picture. Like, they send me a picture.
That's cool.
They're like, and we'll say, like, looks like he's doing a good job driving. Like, so it's kind of funny, but it's a reality. Like, and I have a lot of friends who, and not even necessarily friends, but just people that I've known over the years that, bring their dogs to us. And I generally tell the team when they're coming in, if they're, a friend of mine or that type of thing. But sometimes I don't find out until after. And they come in and had an experience with us, and they'll reach out to me and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, I was in your business the other day and met with, Jessica," or whoever it is that they met with. And, I've gotten messages where people have been not happy. It happens, but more often than not, it's not that way. People tend to be pretty happy. We also do a Net Promoter Score survey a couple times a year with our clients. We survey them basically after almost every single transaction that they have with us. So that's what's kind of allowed us to kind of keep a pulse on things. But, we have to constantly improve. And I think that, like, in today's world, we have to work a lot harder to keep people happy. It's a reality. Like, we could make people happy much more easily 2 or 3 years ago. It's very different now.
Well, and they have so many different platforms that they can express their unhappiness, right? And I tell people, your network is your net worth, and so it sounds like you got a solid network out there. And that just speaks to a good reputation. And reputation takes years to build, but a second to destroy, man. And as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, we've tried mystery shoppers, and like a mystery shopper, I don't think that we get the same results because they're not having an intimate experience with the business the way that somebody who is actually doing business with it. So we've kind of said, we're just gonna hear feedback from our clients and get feedback from friends and family that people bring into the business, team members bring into the business. So.
Well, and I forgot to post this. I have One Small Step, the Kaizen Way. One small step can change your life. I'm a huge book guy, so let me post that up in the comments here. Are you a big reader? Do you have books that you recommend at all, or?
Yeah, so quite honestly, up until last year, I probably finished like 2 or 3 books in my life. And then last year, like, I just got really addicted to reading. And I got to a place where I was basically reading a book a week. So yeah, I'm definitely a big reader. Do a little bit of, listening to podcasts, but I tend to like sitting down with the book and stepping away from the electronics. One of the best books that I've read this year, sitting right here on my desk. Buy Back Your Time.
Oh man, I'm there. I love books, man. They're so great because they're just like tools around you that you can just take from. Oh, I even have an Audible credit too. That's actually what I'm getting with my buy with Audible credit. I just bought it. Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. Get unstuck, reclaim your freedom, and build your empire. Okay, I just bought that one. I'll report back to you, Andrew, what I think of it. And I just posted up 2 Chow Hounds. So Chow Hounds, have you heard of Chow Hounds?
Yeah.
So let me show this one. So Chow Hounds, let me share it here with you, because this was a book that really, and this was a while ago that it was written. Chow Hounds, Why Our Dogs Are Getting Fatter and Vets Plan to Save Their Lives. And this was 2010, so 13 years ago, right? Dang, man, that was a long time ago. But this talks about how important your dog's diet is, and how even a few pounds on a dog is like 50 pounds on us. Like, it's something because of the ratio of their body weight and being smaller, that is much more significant to them than people really believe. They're like, oh, my dog's just about 10 pounds overweight, but they got a 30-pound dog. It's like, man, that's a lot, right? And so as somebody that offers doggy fitness, and I'll look into a couple other, because that's pretty older, pretty much maybe even a little bit outdated, but and then the other one is that I would like to recommend is, what is it? How to Focus in a Distracted World. I think it's, let me see. Focus. No, what is it? Now they got so many books, man. Is it? I just read this book. That was the tagline. Here, I'll find it for you. But what else you got for a book? Anything that you've read that?
Let's see here. I finished a book written by Napoleon Hill, which was interesting. Very interesting read, called Outwitting the Devil. So he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich.
Of course, I know.
And yeah, if you haven't read that one, that's a must, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's this other one that's I think it was just released a couple of years ago, called Outwitting the Devil. And it's an interesting book.
Oh, I'm going to get that one too. I've read Napoleon Hill, like Carnegie, Charles Schwab, like all these magnates that back in the industry. He was at the turn of the century, about 100 years ago now, right? And he was very interested in what was the key to these guys' success, right? And that's where Think and Grow Rich happened. And he talks about a white hot desire. Right. You just can't be interested in this, and you do whatever it takes, not whatever's convenient.
Yep.
But whatever it takes. Then he also talks about this thing called sexual transmutation, where I thought it was very interesting as well. And so let's what do you think about employees dating each other? Do you have any type of what do you think about that?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've had two, maybe even 3 couples end up married who've worked for the company.
Okay.
I don't recommend it. I don't necessarily say, hey guys, your soulmate is somewhere here. But basically what we tell people is like, look, if you're dating, you got to let us know. We have to know, because if you don't tell us, then ultimately you're putting the company at risk, because we could be putting somebody in charge of somebody else that they should not be in charge of. And that can create some some HR issues. So, most people have been pretty open with it, and it hasn't been an issue for us. But it's, I think it's a delicate thing. It's definitely a delicate thing.
Yeah, I found Outwitting the Devil, and I put up a post or a link for this in the comments as well. And then I also found, it's called Deep Work. Rules for Focus Success in a Distracted World.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I think that this, because of what you were just saying about taking the book and having some time, and this is a really good book because we all have these devices in our hands all the time that, whoops, not this one. That we think that we can multitask. That was one of the biggest things that I got out of this was multitasking is not really a thing.
No, it is not. It's multi-failing.
Yeah, it is. And it talks about like your focused effort. And then it also talks about the sweet spot of like how when you want to innovate and when you want to work on I blow glass, right? And so like how to get in the zone and how to stay there. And not only that, but I work with a lot of artists, and I work with I'm very fortunate with my clientele. And so being able to kind of relate to them and also being able to work with their dogs so they don't always have what they call energetic residue in your brain. And if you're always worried about this dog, you're not going to be able to get to the depth of the focus that you can in that flow state that we call it. And so it talks about that. It's a fantastic book. If you do read it, let me know what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm putting it down on my list here.
Awesome, brother.
I have an issue where I buy like 20 or 30 books at a time, read about half of them, and then, buy the next 20. So,
well, I'll be reading a book and I'll buy 5 books that were mentioned in that book, and I'm just like, I have books everywhere, all around me. Like even, I don't know, you can't see behind me, but I have bookshelves in every single room that are just packed full. And some of them are just for research purposes that I can grab at any time and utilize it for a lesson that's in there that I need to learn, right? And but a lot of the times too, that's the clutter. There's a clutter book that I read too that talks about that. It's like it just takes up space, and you need to go through. It was this lady that was a declutter. She was from Asia, and you're supposed to take every book and see if it gives you joy. And if it doesn't, then you throw it out right away. So that's an interesting one. Is there anything, we could talk about so much more stuff, but we're kind of getting to the end of our hour and a half here. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to mention, Andrew?
No, you hit on a lot of great stuff. I think that, if there's one thing that I would throw out to like everybody to think about is, that a lot of our growth in our businesses comes from our personal growth, and, becoming a committed, lifelong learner is really what I think it's about, is us as humans just like wanting to learn more. And when we do that and we feed ourselves in that way, that's what allows us to grow our businesses. But I think that the focus on personal development and personal transformation, I think, is a big part of people being successful when they train their dog, because you've got to become a different person to be a good trainer for your dog. And I think it also means the same thing for our businesses and really everything around us. So,
well, you're institutionalizing or putting in place the growth in the relationship that you have with your animal and understanding them on a deeper level too. And then you work out quite a bit too. So you've been running a bunch. I've been seeing your videos, and so do you have any recommendations as far as somebody like me who's gained a bunch of weight? I quit smoking weed
That's a big step.
Dude, and it's almost been it's been a while that I haven't touched anything. I'm completely sober. And it, I mean, I could be around it no problem, but I've gained a bunch of weight, man, and I need to get this stuff off. Like, how do you start with the process? And do you have do you go to a gym? Do you it seems like you're pretty much self-motivated. Do you do the same stuff of like goal setting, 3-year, 5-year with your health?
So probably about 3 years ago, I decided, I got to do something, and I hired a personal trainer, and I worked out with him every Saturday for like 6 months, but I would never do anything other than that. Like, I literally was just paying him to show up and make me do it.
It's valuable,
And
dude.
like, it's a little bit embarrassing to say, because it's like, dude, you really were that unmotivated. And it's like, yeah, like I really had no interest in doing it, but I like just kind of knew in the back of my head that I needed to. And I did that for a while. And I was like a 1 day a week workout guy for probably about a year. And then I just decided, I was like, I got to do something more than this. Like, this is kind of a waste of money if I'm only going to do this one session each week. And there's a CrossFit gym basically right next door to our facility. And I was like, well, if I sign up there, I'm going to have some serious accountability in the parking lot, because I'm not going to be able to walk to my car without seeing people from the gym. So that's what I did. I was like, the heck with it. So I signed up for CrossFit last year in September, and was doing 3 days a week, and had never run more than a mile in my life, maybe other than one time in 8th grade when I ran a 5K. But this year, back in May, I started 75 hard and started running, which was just like a very painful experience for quite a while, but it's become like a new addiction to me. I did my first half marathon back in November, and
Very cool.
Like, I love it now. It's definitely a good de-stressor, but it's taken a long time, I would say, for me to like get to the point where I'm consistent.
Okay.
So one step at a time, brother.
Well, I did belong to a CrossFit gym, and I told people it showed me what a little bitch I am, because I was so done. And then, so I think that you've answered my question, man. I do need it, because they've been calling me back, dude. They're like, Bill, come on. But I hurt myself. Like, it was a little bit too much with, I hurt my shoulder and my knee, and that was it. I just need to I'm older now. So I think that it's just kind of being smart about everything,
And in that environment, like, the good thing is you're working out with other people, so it motivates you. But like the caveat to that is that like you can overdo it because you're wanting to keep up, right?
Yeah.
Or do better than the person next to you. And I think like a lot of people end up getting themselves injured in CrossFit. And so I've been like, I scale like probably 90% of the workouts that I do, and I'm totally good with it, because I'm still getting to work out and I'm still getting what I need, but I don't have anything to prove. Like, I'm never going to be a big, like, muscled up guy. Like, I'm a string bean. I'm 6'2". I'm just never going to be that way. I've got like the opposite issue where I can't put on weight. Like, if I want to gain muscle, like, yeah.
I get it, where like people were telling me, Bill, you look good. Like, I once I start working out, like I bulk up pretty well, but now it's just in my belly instead of my shoulders, which I need to do that. And then one last question for you, and then I want to tell people, like, if you do like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put a link in the comments down below right there. I can't forget. I hate promoting myself. One last question for you, man. When you have somebody that says to you, I work with dogs because I dislike people, what's your response?
I work with dogs because I dislike people.
Yeah, that's what I've had. So many people, like, as a professional and this is just something that I've asked a majority of people that I've talked to. is like, because I've heard this from people that work with dogs, and I'm like, man, that doesn't make sense to me because I've never taken a credit card from a dog.
Yeah, that sounds like pain in the future to me. Like, I mean, unless you are just strictly training dogs and you're not working with the people at all, like, okay. And like, if you were just working with like boot camp dogs and you were just doing that and you weren't ever interfacing with the owner, okay. But the problem with that, even still, is that there's an intent behind training this dog, which is to make this person's life easier and to give them a better quality of life with their dog. And so if you don't like people and you don't want to do that, then can you really do a good job training the dog? I don't know. I would say not as good. But if you really have the intent of helping the person, I think you can just do a better job with the dog, because you know what you're really after. The outcome that you want is for them to be successful together. So
yeah, it's not a we're not in it for the dogs. We're in it for the people, to help the dogs at the end of the day. But and that's where I talk to you. You need therapy. There's something in you that might be a little broken, because we deal with people, and at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this, is to help the people. So thank you, Andrew.
The a challenge of people's ability to communicate with people that makes it hard to do the people side of things. And I would say if somebody's in that position where they really feel like they're just doing this for the dogs and not for the people, it's like, maybe start to work on being a better communicator so that you can have interactions with people that are less painful. But I think it goes to doing some work on yourself, and your book that you mentioned, Deep Work, I think probably would even hit on like doing that deep work on ourselves to figure out like, what is that roadblock that's making me not want to deal with people.
Well, I think that's also brings us back to the very beginning of like being intentional. And it's not just intentional about our business, our bodies, but our brains too, man, and our emotional well-being as well.
100%.
Well, thank you for your time today, man.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, this has been great. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you privately too, because I think you got some good stuff, man, and you've obviously done things right to keep this business afloat and successful after 18 years and even expanding now.
Appreciate it, Bill.
You bet, brother. Let's say goodbye to everybody here. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And then you stay right there, and I'll